We already know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh, Sunday morning. We already know what's going to happen. What's going to happen there? Yes.
Well, I mean, I could wait until the game comes, but I mean, let's just spoil it. I spoiled it with the teaser. 2 weeks ago, I said John Mechie. I believe it was Halloween night
You did.
and did nothing because CJ Stroud couldn't hit the water from a boat. And then he does exactly what I thought he would do last week. Well,
Dude.
a week ago, I said Deontay Johnson on a Thursday night. You know what's going to happen today? Playing
Oh,
against
yeah.
his old team in Pittsburgh. One of the two big revenge games happening this week. Yeah, they're going to be more focused on winning the game than trying to feed him so he can score against his old team. But man, oh man, if there was ever a anytime TD bet that I like this week, it's Deontay Johnson. Harbaugh
Yeah.
said he's going to get him more involved. They're going to ramp it up this week in practice. He's still fourth on the depth chart, but if they get close, I think they look for Deontay at least once so he can score in Pittsburgh against his old team. And if the trajectory of Mechie and doing nothing and being open to make plays and Deontay the same thing a week later continues, we're going to see a good game out of Deontay today.
Ooh, I like it, man. Good call. Good call. And Mike Tomlin doesn't help the situation by saying he's focused on way other things besides Deontay Johnson. So, all right, guys, remember the inside scoop from outside the box, answers by guess. Always look for those hashtags, answers by guess, and ABGFF. And also look to follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, TikTok, X, Patreon, and Spotify. Bye weeks. Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, and Tampa Bay Bucks. Any of those guys in your lineups, make sure to get them out. What you got there, guys?
That's a mini by Mageddon.
Yeah,
Next week's the big one.
Next week's the big one, and
And
week
14
is the big
six,
one. But you
six
know what?
apiece.
No buys on week 13.
Of course not.
So that was it. Week 13 and week 8. We couldn't. Let's add 2 teams there. Why not? Why? I just don't understand the NFL. I don't get it. It bothers me.
Yeah,
but it is what it is.
They get paid and we don't.
What's up there, Marty? How are you, bud? Thanks for tuning in, man.
Hi, Marty.
All right, first game. Your Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears, coming off of the bye week for the Packers. I'm seeing a lot of questions on, am I starting Love? We were kind of mentioning last week as far as the Chicago Bears defense. They play okay, but again, they're just in a situation where the offense doesn't do anything, so they're constantly on the field. How do you see Green Bay playing today, and what players are you looking at? And then from a Chicago standpoint, offensive coordinator fired. They're saying Caleb's the guy. We see DJ Moore not into it. Is this an opportunity against Green Bay, who always seems to beat the Bears, that you actually give them a game and you set up your offense to try to do things that you haven't done before?
Yeah, a lot of times I try and think, how the coaches should think, and a lot of times they don't think that way. And that's how I'm going to approach this one in particular. Okay. The problem has not been the Bears defense. The problem also really hasn't even been their offensive play calling. I mean, I guess there's some instances of it, but it's their offensive line is still terrible. Now, I will say they had their top 2 offensive linemen were out last week. They had a total of 8 offensive linemen that were out. They were playing with absolute scrubs. But they're healthy, and a lot of them are back this week. So their offensive line will be a little bit more intact. So the Bears offense, hypothetically, should be better. And with the new offensive coordinator, will they get the boost? Listen, their defense has been fine. It's been the offense that hasn't been able to do anything. They need to go back to what they were doing before the bye. And before the bye, what they were doing is feeding DeAndre Swift. with a ton of checkdowns. I've been saying this for weeks. I feel like this season more than ever, these coaches need to just put the running back out and dump it off. If you can't get the passing game going, you use your running back as sort of a hybrid pass run game. And the Bears are a perfect example of a team that needs to do that this week. And for 8 seasons now, we've been doing this show, and I've basically said there's 2 types of players that the Packers defense can't stop. Now, I will say that the Packers defense this year, and I did say this a few weeks ago, is different than I've ever seen their defense. And that's probably because their new defensive coordinator. But it's a running mobile quarterback has been tough for them, and a speedy, shifty running back. So if I'm the Bears, I'm going back to where we had success before the bye and attacking an area that traditionally the Packers have struggled with. And I'm dumping the ball off to Swift and letting him catch the ball in space and try and do something with it. So Swift is somebody I'm definitely looking at starting today, especially in DFS where he's a little bit cheaper because he hasn't been doing great the past couple. Other than that, I have the Bears on 5 guys to despise 2 weeks ago, and I just can't have faith even in any of them. Last week, I had a prop on Rome Odunze over 3.5 catches. He wound up with 3. And the 4th one that he actually could have been his 3rd one because it was earlier in the game, right in his hands, dropped it. So it's just these props have just been killing me with ridiculous things like that, missing wide open people, dropping passes. So if I can this week, I feel like it's a week that you can. You leave them aside, but you play Swift if you need to a running back. And as far as the Packers go, the Bears defense has been fine, but their pass defense has been incredible. You can run on them. So I think Jacobs is a fine play this week. And I also like Jaden Reed because they use him out of the backfield like a running back, and they will have to complete some passes. Other than Reed and I guess maybe Dobbs, and if you're using Kraft still at tight end, Kraft, and Jacobs, I wouldn't go really near Watson. The rain game a couple weeks ago, he could have had a long one. If it wasn't a monsoon out there, he probably would have hit that prop. But I'm going to stay away from him. And Wicks has been kicked to the curb by everybody at this point, which means he's probably going to have a huge game today because he's just sitting out there in waiver wires. His last good game was like week 6 or something. Everybody picked him up, and then everybody has since dropped him. But Dobbs is okay. Reed is fine. I'm playing the 2 starting running backs. I'm a little nervous. The Packers always beat the Bears. But the Bears have looked so bad, and now they're at home, and this game has been circled twice on their calendar, I'm sure. So Love has not looked good, and the Bears can win this one.
Yeah, I got to see what happens, man. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Detroit Lions. Jacksonville coming off of a loss that they could have won technically. Bigsby's out. It's going to sound like it's an ETN game. Mac Jones is the starting quarterback again. Threw a couple interceptions last week, but he gave them a spark that they hadn't had, even though the offense wasn't great. It actually looked like it should have been a lot better. What are you saying as far as who do you start from Jacksonville? And then on the flip side, I don't know, man. Detroit, they're looking okay. Goff throws 5 interceptions and still wins the game, which is amazing to me. But it's the main play, guys. Laporte is out. How does that affect things? But St. Brown, Montgomery, and Gibbs has been on the downslip. Are we okay with playing Gibbs?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the same exact boat. The Jags need to get your offense going. It's very hard to run against the Lions. Why not get ETN in space? Checkdowns, backup quarterback, not very accomplished quarterback, much maligned quarterback. You can't get the passing game going, which you should be able to against Detroit. They're a sieve in the secondary. You need to get ETN involved. And with no Bigsby there, yeah, they got the Ernest, but I think that ETN just has to catch a ton of passes in this. You've got to put him out to the side. It's the easiest play in football. And maybe I'm really just that what's the word I'm looking for is not naive, but let's say uninformed, because I can't think of anything else. But it just seems so simple. You got him back there. It's a pass play. You bump him out. You dump it off to him. Now, is it going to get tackled in the backfield a couple times? Maybe, but you're going to have more success with that than trying to run on the Detroit Lions. And they have to have some sort of short game, or else it's just going to be Hail Mary, deep downfield things. Now, Brian Branch, will he be covering Brian Thomas this game, or is he going to sneak over the inside and worry about Evan Ingram more? I also know what's going to happen in this game. Parker Washington. Last week, I lost a match by less than 1.5 points. I started Parker Washington as my third wide receiver because I had to. He got 0, which means he'll have a great game today. And a lot of people, I'm sure, played him last week, and they're going to utilize him. Now, you can say, well, that's because Davis played and so on and so forth. Sure. The Lions secondary is terrible. And teams have been able to beat Detroit's secondary all year long. So Parker Washington, super risky, but I guarantee you he doesn't wind up with 0 this week. And if they're smart, they utilize him in the same way I'm saying they should be utilizing ETN, because it's going to be hard to run on this team. And I think Branch is going to focus mostly on Ingram, to be honest. So Thomas might be able to get beat deep. And if nothing else, the line sets up. Is this like a 14-point spread?
I think it's high. Yeah, I think it's or something.
I wouldn't be surprised if this game is under 10 points and the Jags cover. I would guarantee if you looked up the Vegas betting percentages, there's 80+% of the people on the Lions, maybe not. But I don't think they win this game by 2 touchdowns. I think also what you're going to see in this for the Lions is I do think that Goff is going to get back on track. Now, last week with the 5 interceptions, and they still end up winning the game. He's had 2 weeks in a row, like under 100 yards. I like Jameson Williams in this game as a sneaky DFS play. And if you're considering using him as your wide receiver 3 or flex, I like him in this one. Last week, if he would have caught that 1 touchdown, he'd had over 100 yards, a handful of catches, and a touchdown. So you're looking at what he did last week as a box score watcher, and you missed the play that he dropped the touchdown, essentially. So I think that they get him back going on in this one. Amon-Ra has been a disappointment, but again, they're back home. This is where Jared Goff is at his best. No Laporta, like you said. I'm not going after Brock Wright. There's other guys out there that you could pick up this week. Kittle might be out when we get to that game. Dawson Knox, Davis Allen for the Rams, we'll talk about when we get to that game. So I wouldn't pick up Brock Wright if I'm a Laporta owner, but Amon-Ra should have some success. I like Jameson Williams, obviously Gibbs and Montgomery, but I think the Jaguars stay closer than 14 points in this one.
And good call, 14 points and 85.7% for
the Lions. Yeah, and that Vegas doesn't look like it does. Yeah, because 85% of the people on one team win. I can't say I'll be surprised if they cover that spread, because they obviously on paper should smoke this team. But I would be surprised if the Lions cover 14 points. Very least, it's an 18-point game, and the Jaguars score a garbage touchdown to lose by 11 at the end of the game. I mean, I don't think Vegas is going to give 85% of the people betting on this game a win. And I think it's a sucker bet. I think it's a sucker bet. With as bad as Jacksonville's looked, as much of a negative connotation as Mac Jones has, I think they cover that 14 points.
All right. I like it. All right. Next one here. Minnesota Vikings at the Tennessee Titans. Vikings, Darnold, there's something off with him, man. Again, throwing interceptions, just barely won that game against Jacksonville, as I was mentioning in the game before. Aaron Jones was definitely a big part of it last week, but not everybody else. Are we seeing a flip now? Maybe can we see an offensive explosion against a Tennessee team that's okay? Will Levis and Ridley look fantastic on the first drive. They were, oh my, I'm like, whoa, look at this guy, and then disappeared for the entire game. And then in the fourth quarter, it's like, all right, let me show up again. Are we going to have that kind of game again from Tennessee? And a 50-50 split, it seems like, from Tajay Spears now and Pollard. Where would you go as far as them?
Yeah, we kind of touched on it when we did the show. I was like, well, Will Levis, he had that huge game when he came in with DeAndre Hopkins last year. And like, we'll probably see something like that out of nowhere type of thing. And then he sort of reverted back to himself. But the Vikings pass defense is terrible as well. They're another team you can't run against. And lo and behold, here we have Pollard and Spears, both running backs that could catch passes out of the backfield. So if you are a smart coach, that's how you're going to operate this offense in this game if you want to navigate to a win. As far as the Vikings go, Jefferson and Addison and all that, but I think Hawkinson, what's his third game back? Yeah, I think that he's going to be a really good play in this. But the Titans somehow, and, I thought and still kind of think a little bit, a lot of that had to do with them just getting smoked and teams not having to pass on them. But with Sam Darnold slowly turning orange and into a pumpkin, as we were wondering when it would happen, they could force him into some mistakes in this one because their defense is sneakily better than I thought. I thought sort of it was a mirage looking at the stats because teams just didn't have to pass too much on them, but they're also kind of tough to run against. So this is a tough one. I would stay away from this because there's really no way that I could put money on the Titans. But I think you can ride it with Ridley still. Where's Chigo Okonkwo gone?
Yeah, man. I had high hopes for him in the beginning of the year.
This is just a perfect game for him to get involved because I feel like this is how you're going to have to beat this Minnesota team. You're obviously not sitting Jefferson. You could probably be okay playing Addison. He's another one who I had his props on. And Sam Darnold overthrew him twice on 20-plus yard games. I think I had over 37 and a half yards. He wound up with like 25. He should have had 75. Last week was a weird week. I think Darko in the ABG chat somewhere early in the 1 o'clock games had sort of mentioned that, this is a bad fantasy week. And it kind of was. A lot of guys that a lot of people were hoping on the fantasy and prop bets didn't really come through last week. And hopefully there's a regression to the mean or progression to the mean in this one. But I'm playing both running backs for the Titans. I'm playing Ridley. I really think Hawkinson is going to be the star of this one.
Dude, Hawkinson. Yeah, what's funny is that we had a trade in our dynasty league that included Hawkinson. I had another trade in another league that included Hawkinson, as well as I'm just seeing everybody like, oh, go and grab your shares. I think you're right, man.
It's a good time to
feel comfortable with Hawkinson. Yeah, especially with trade deadlines. Probably this is your last weekend to be able to make those trades. Definitely something. Good move. All right. Next game here. Las Vegas Raiders at the Miami Dolphins. Raiders coming off the bye week. Bowers. I mean, anybody else that we should be Myers, maybe, if you're in a wide receiver 3. As far as Miami, you know what? Tua being back another week. How do we feel that this offense can start moving? I'm liking Mostert a little bit more. I'm liking a chain a little bit more. If they get the running game against this Vegas team, do we see that open up opportunities for guys that are benching Waddle, guys that are questioning starting Hill? What do you think?
Yeah, Waddle was the top receiver for them last week. And we sort of were against kind of playing him. It was Hill, something was up with him. And now we know, well, he's hurt. And we're wondering, even going into today, was he going to play type of thing? So we'll see. But it's against the Raiders. How do you sit Hill unless they say he's sitting himself? But I think you mentioned Tua second game back. I think that's going to be the key. The Raiders stink against the tight end, and lo and behold, they love Jonnu Smith. We said it after like week 1 or 2. I was like, oh my God, who's that guy? And I was like, Jonnu Smith. He looks so skinny. He's so fast.
Yes, yeah.
And he just looks like a different person. Like if you took a picture of him when he played for the Patriots and a picture of him now, it's like two different people. Doesn't even look the same. And maybe it's the Miami outfit uniform. Maybe it's the sun. I don't know, but he looks like a player possessed, and they're using him. And good. Mike McDaniels did one thing smart this season, use their tight end, because for whatever reason, he would never do it before. But he looks really good, and I really like him this game. And unfortunately, I think I'm playing against him in 2 or 3 out of my 5 leagues. Of course I am. But I think Jonnu Smith is a great play today. The running backs that you mentioned, they're just fine, but they keep using Jalen Wright a ton. And if this game becomes a blowout, which it very well could, Gardner Minshew on the other team, and you mentioned it, really just Brock Bowers is all they kind of really have. You're going to see a lot of Jalen Wright in the second half. And if he's sitting out there on your waiver wire, I would suggest picking him up, because if anything happens to one of the top 2, he's been getting game time in the middle of games, not just at the end. He's been getting game time in the first quarter, second quarter of close games they're losing. And they like him and they trust him, and he will become that sort of 1A, 1B with whoever doesn't get hurt. So hopefully they don't, but it's just in case, and this is the time of the year. So I'm fine playing Hill. Waddle, I guess, after what we saw last week, might as well. Jonnu Smith, I think, is a smash in this one. The running back's okay. Here we are with the Madison Zamir White. We talked about it last week. Zamir White didn't really do much, but he did run a 1-yard touchdown. Will they continue to use him more? I don't know. You're not this week. You're not using him. It's Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, maybe if he's your 3. They're going to have to score. We've seen him before with Minshew. He does okay, and then he gets benched, and he comes back, and he plays pretty well. So this would be that game. So we'll see. But I think Antonio Pierce, if they lose this game and they lose it badly, he might get fired after this game. It was such a team favorite, but they've fallen apart. Apart, and it stinks because we all liked him as a coach. We liked what he did last year for this team.
I agree totally, man. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Los Angeles Rams at the New England Patriots. Again, Rams coming off a weird game where the offense again seemed to be moving. You had Puka do well. You had Kupp do well. You had Kyron do okay. Stafford played okay. But again, just the Miami came out to such a big lead that comeback type of scenario didn't work this time. How are we feeling as far as what players were playing there? Is it just the top 4? And then on the other side, Stevenson seems to be the guy. Are we comfortable starting a Drake May in a position if you have a quarterback that's out on bye week because you get to utilize his legs a little bit? But who's he throwing to really is the question.
Yeah. This game, I picked up Dawson Knox in one league. I'd been using Hunter Henry, and I'm playing Dawson Knox, but I kind of feel like Hunter Henry's going to have a nice bounce back this week. Last week wasn't much of anything because he didn't need to be much of anything. The Patriots absolutely were not letting the Bears do anything. So they weren't really throwing the ball too much, and Demario Douglas was doing just fine. Booty, and Stevenson. So I kind of really like Hunter Henry in this one. I also like Davis Allen, who I think has taken over starting tight end duties for the Rams. The second-year player, was a rookie drafted late last year, 2023. But I think Stafford, you could tell from watching the game last week, he kind of really liked him. And when things aren't going well, which with Christian Gonzalez guarding one of the 2 main guys, Puka or Kupp, he might continue to look inside, and he was doing it all year.
Yep.
With Parkinson. So I kind of feel like Davis Allen is going to be a name that you're going to be looking at. I didn't do a Tuesday show this week. Davis Allen would have been a 5 guy for your eye. So it's somebody, if you're dying at tight end, take a look at him. And again, Kyron, if Blake Corum's out there, you got a bench spot. You pick him up before the games today. Kyron makes it through unscathed. You drop him. You pick up somebody else when it's waiver time, because once the game goes off, if anything happens to these main guys, now you got to fight with everybody to get the backups. That's how you have to be playing this part of the season. Pick up the backups, watch the game. If the starters get through, you could dump them, or you can continue to hold them if you don't need the space. So Blake Corum is one of those guys. They're trying to mix him in, but he's doing nothing. So Hunter Henry, Douglas, I guess, if you have to, and the main guys for the Rams would be starts for me today. I'm interested to see, you asked a question about Drake May. Sure, I don't think that you're in that bad of a position, maybe in a super flex, of course, especially against the Rams. But I'm interested to see, can the Patriots pull one out against a team that is fighting for basically their lives right now? And this will be an interesting game. And will the Patriots, this game, honestly, when I look at it and when we all look at it, I think most people could agree, look at it like, it's going to be like maybe like 2017. This game could wind up in the 30s. Like, this is one of those games where it's like New England really hasn't had games where they need to open up the offense. And I'm interested to see if they get into a game where they have to, if they can, and if the guys can capitalize. Like, this is a game where it could be sneaky high scoring. I want to say the over-under somewhere around like 40, 42. I wouldn't be surprised if they had an extra 15 to 20 onto that. Because the Rams have been sort of not doing as great as you think, and the Patriots are sort of this low-scoring, win these defensive slow type games. And this just, I feel like, mixes up to something that could be an offensive bonanza, and you want to be a part of it. Maybe part of that is because I'm benching Hunter Henry, and I just have a feeling he's going to go off. He's going to go off for like 8 for 111 and a touchdown. And I'm going to be like, what the hell? Why did you play Dawson stupid Knox?
I'm in a pinch right now. I just traded for Ramondre Stevenson, and I'm just constant. I have a lot of good running backs, and I'm just like, holy moly, am I going to play him this week? Because the Rams, that would be a good matchup, and I feel you're right. I think if they can get the run game going, that actually opens things up for New England for Drake May to actually throw the ball. So we'll see. We will see, my friend. All right. Go on to the next one here. Cleveland Browns at the New Orleans Saints. Cleveland coming off the bye week. It wasn't good before the bye week, but coming off of the bye week, are you expecting this team to come out against a New Orleans Saints defense that is okay? They played good against Atlanta last week, but they can be moved on. What guy? Tillman, obviously, I would assume, and Njoku, obviously, but any other surprises that we should be thinking about as far as the Browns? And on the flip side, Kamara is obviously the guy, but I think that Taysom Hill is going to have a game here against Cleveland that they need to figure out something, because Cleveland defense is okay. Can we utilize Hill today? And then obviously MVS is the big pickup of the week. Do we see him being able to be good against this secondary for the Browns?
Yeah, I don't know where I want to start. I guess we'll start here in the open. Right, I had mentioned a revenge game that we have yet to get to with Deontay Johnson playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. This is the other revenge game. Jameis Winston.
Oh, yeah.
You were the backup for the Saints. You signed with them because you were supposed to take over after Drew Brees retired. Drew Brees retired. You ended up playing Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill. You picked up Derek Carr. How much revenge do you want? That's the thing. So he's playing in New Orleans, a place where he showed that he could play just fine. He's got great weapons. You mentioned them. with Njoku and Tillman. I really like Elijah Moore in this one. I think we started to see a little bit of him, but he's going to be playing in the slot. New Orleans has been getting killed in the slot. And I kind of feel like Jameis Winston is just going to pepper his guys. Now, I also like Nick Chubb a lot. And you and I were talking before the show that we kind of get a feeling Nick Chubb is going to start rolling. I think this is a perfect spot for it. I think they get him rolling in this one. And this is going to just be a game where Jameis just wants to give it to the Saints. The Saints offensively, I don't think they have enough firepower to keep up with the Browns. And the Browns defense is just getting better, coming off the bye and healthier. They were playing a little bit better before. We saw how they played against the Ravens. Just good enough. They had the sun in their favor as well. They won't have the sun in their favor today playing inside. But yeah, Taysom Hill, Kamara. I'm not going to the MVS well. I feel like we brought that on because I was like, who are they going to throw to? Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
Yep.
Sure enough. What did he caught 2 passes? 3 targets?
3 passes for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. 2 huge ones. So the Browns will be ready for that. Denzel Ward is dirty, and he's not going to let something like that happen to him. They're going to have to play small ball, I think, with Johnson and Tipton if he's in there, and I just don't think they have enough. So I see Marty's comment down there. That is not that ridiculous of a call.
Yeah. You know, we've seen it, though. That's the crazy part is that we've seen the 4 interception games, but he still pulls it out with these kind of numbers.
Would not be surprised if that comes through or somewhere relatively close to that, whether it's like 323 and 3. Like I'm struggling. Is this more of a revenge game or the Deontay in Pittsburgh? This one might be more of, because I feel like he was supposed to take over that team. And they just wouldn't give it to him. Like, nah, Trevor Siemian looks better than you. What? Oh, Taysom Hill will be our starting quarterback for a season. Oh, we'll sign Derek Carr.
What?
So he's going to be angry going in this one. He's got a lot of weapons, and I think you want to play him. Jerry Jeudy is one where I'd be okay just leaving him alone, which probably means he'll go off. But I really like Elijah Moore. Of course, you got to play Tillman and Njoku and Chubb.
All right, you're talking about the revenge game. Might as well bring it up. Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Real quick with the Ravens, Wallace came out of nowhere. Big catch. I don't think he'll do that again against a Pittsburgh defense that's pretty good. But who are we starting? Is it just the main guys? They actually look good in the offensive explosion on that Thursday night game. What an unbelievable game. Obviously Lamar, but who else are we starting there? And then you said Deontay, he's back. Mike Tomlin was even mentioning him in I'm not worried about him kind of situation. In the red zone, could he be the target like you were mentioning earlier? And then as far as the run game, we saw all 3 being used like I mentioned last week that, you know, who's the guy? Najee was hurt for a little bit, but what are you thinking as far as who else we're looking at the Steelers? Oh, real quick, that Russell Wilson play at the end to be able to end the game on a false or on a encroachment, unbelievable. That's what Russell Wilson is.
Right.
But the vet. Yeah, the vet. Unbelievable. I love it.
Yep. So in case you missed the intro of today's show, I had mentioned, like, we know what's going to happen. And to take you back Halloween night, I really like John Mechie. CJ Stroud couldn't hit water from a boat, is what I said. Missed him. He should have had 2 touchdowns, should have had boatloads of yards. Got nothing. And then the next week, which was last week, John Mechie absolutely killed it. Did exactly what I thought he should have done Halloween night. Well, last week, I thought Deontay Johnson was going to have a pretty good game. His props were low. And when Lamar threw it to him, it was either a bad pass or he slipped and fell, and then Lamar bastardized him and never threw it to him again. And Tylan Wallace caught the pass and took off, so they just let him play that third wide receiver role the rest of the game. Well, lo and behold, things replicate things, right? For lack of a better fancy term. I feel like Mechie 1 week to the next is going to be the same as Deontay 1 week to the next, and it just so happens to be a revenge game where he's playing against his old team in Pittsburgh. The sane and 100% agreeable argument against what I'm saying is Baltimore wants to win this game. They could care less if Deontay Johnson scores a TD. Yes, I agree. But if they get close, he'll be in the game, and they will dedicate at least one snap to trying to get him a touchdown minimum. And his line last night when I looked was plus 500. Anytime touchdown, Deontay Johnson playing in Pittsburgh against your old team after the coach says we're going to ramp up his practice stuff this past week and get him more involved for the upcoming week. The stars are aligning. You got $50, you got $20, throw it out there to win 100. I like it. I think it's just a great spot based on everything that I've said. Now, Pickens, got to continue to play him. The Mike Williams thing, I mean, it was the only pass, right? It just happened to be the most important one. But, you know, he got bastardized by Rodgers. So does he still have something left in the tank? Sure. We thought he would with the Jets, but now he's got a quarterback that is playing much better than Aaron Rodgers is. So,
Russell Wilson is way beyond.
If you have to take a shot with Mike Williams, go ahead. Looks like Jaylen Warren's going to play, but they will use Cordarrelle Patterson if they have to, and that just stinks for both of him and Harris. Freiermuth, I like him. This game, I feel like I didn't look, is probably a high over-under, 45 plus, maybe up to 48. I don't know if it's that high.
48 and a half.
Okay. You would think so, but these two teams, like, when is the last time these two teams played and this game was even over 40 points? The difference is the Ravens defense is terrible this year. But the Pittsburgh offense is better than it's ever been. So I'm fine just playing them all. Mark Andrews, Bateman's okay. Flowers. I wouldn't play Deontay. I want to see him get more involved, but I just like his anytime touchdown prop in this one. Of course, Henry. I mean, we don't even have to mention Derrick Henry ever.
Yeah, you're always
playing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, going out to the last 1 o'clock game here. Indianapolis Colts at my New York Jets. Starting with the Colts side, it's pretty much Jonathan Taylor, but the ball was flipping around with Flacco. Not Flacco anymore. Now it's going to be Anthony Richardson. I honestly think this game that Richardson's going to come balling out. He's going to want to run first, which is going to be able to help him create the pass. Pittman is back this week. Where do we see the ball being, or where the ball is going to be going to, and do we see Richardson as a start this week, especially in a super flex? On the flip side, I don't even want to talk about them, to be honest with you. I'm just at that point of the season where they give you high hopes for a second and then they take it away. They could win this game going into the bye week. They'll give you high hopes again to then, again, be taken away. But from a player standpoint, I traded for Garrett Wilson this week. I just still like his target share. Adams seems like he is going to be going. And then Breece Hall, I mean, is that it? Are we putting that in? Or are those the guys that we're okay with?
Rob, I'm going to get out my book.
Uh-oh.
Yes, this is a page right out of the book. You saw Kyler Murray last week against the Jets. The Colts better take out the damn book and be like, we could do that.
Of course.
We could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same exact thing, Rob. I love that you're saying that. I think Anthony Richardson is going to have a hell of a game. I was so close to picking him up in Fantasize Me, Rob, and playing him over Jaden Daniels, but I was just like, I don't want to drop somebody. And like, I almost did it. I wish I would have. Daniels is okay. He's got that late touchdown to Ertz, but I think he's going to have a great game. I think he's going to use his legs first. I think he's realized that's been his biggest issue this year. Is he's like not running, scared of getting hurt again, and I just think he's going to run all over the place. I think he's going to take out the book and replicate as best as he can Kyler Murray from last week. Use the legs, open up the pass. You said it beautifully and perfectly, Mr. Robert. And Pittman back. This is Pierce's last stand to be fantasy relevant. I would not play him unless you're in absolute dire straits, but they also have downs. It's going to help Jonathan Taylor because now they have to worry about Richardson. By the first play of the game, Richardson doesn't even have to run. They automatically have to worry about Richardson. So that helps Jonathan Taylor. But I think exactly like you think. I think the Jets, this is it. You lose this one, call it quits type of thing. You're going into the bye. Breece Hall hasn't looked great. You could run on the Colts, but you have to play him. Garrett Wilson. I think Devontae Adams has been very underwhelming. I would not be surprised if he has a really good game today. But Rodgers just needs to, I don't know, dust about 5 years off him. Listen, I know you don't like to hear this, Rob, but I think the Packers were absolutely brilliantly smart with the timing of just letting Rodgers go because I think they saw this coming. Now, listen, what I'm saying is like, well, yeah, it's easy to say because if he didn't get hurt last year, who knows? If he didn't hurt last year, maybe they go on to be really, really good last year. And this season looks completely different. But it has not looked good. His whole thing has been accuracy, and he's been inaccurate.
And he can't move.
So this is do or die. But I think the big play in this one, like if you're doing DFS, I think you can get him relatively cheap. I like Anthony Richardson in this one because you're going to get a lot of running yards if they're smart. I said this the very first game. I look at fantasy the way coaches should be thinking, but a lot of times they don't think. If the coach is thinking, they will designate X amount of plays to Richardson running the ball, and they will tell him, if we dial up this play and it's not open, run. We'll see. But that, I like him. I like him a lot today, and he's going to be a waiver wire ad. So if he's out there now, just pick him up, put him on your bench. If you have one quarterback or two and one you don't really like, and then who knows? Next week it could be whatever, or whenever the next game is. But I like him today against the Jets.
Yeah, I do
the same thing Kyler did.
2 weeks in a row. You saw Stroud do it. You saw Kyler do it. Why are you not going to do the same exact thing? They can't stop it. And you have Jonathan Taylor, which makes it even worse. Run all day, which will create the play action, which I can see somebody getting over the top. It's just who's the person? That's the question. Is it Pittman?
Yeah.
Is it Pierce? Is it Downs? Is it Mitchell?
Well, here's the big issue, right? Because you had mentioned Stroud. And I just talked about Stroud. And I'll never forget talking about Stroud. I'll never stop because that game ruined me for quite some time. He was very inaccurate.
He was.
Anthony Richardson is very inaccurate. So can he put the passes on when it opens it up? That's going to be the difference.
Yeah.
That's going to be the difference.
I would actually like to see the Jets get an interception. I think they have 2 on the season or something like that, which is horrible. But all right, let's go on to the 4 o'clockers here. Atlanta Falcons at the Denver Broncos. Falcons coming off of a game that, again, the offense was there. Fantasy wise, it looked great, but it was a crappy game. They did not play well. They had the Saints were just in their heads, it seemed like. Bijan had a great game. London, and I mean, these guys played well. Obviously, you're starting all of your Falcons. Is Algier somebody you could play this week against the Broncos? And Mooney banged up, somebody else to pay attention to. On the flip side, Bo Nix looked pretty damn good. They had a chance to win the game if it wasn't for a blocked field goal, which, again, unbelievable for them to stay undefeated. It actually made me jump out of my chair. I said, holy moly, I can't believe he blocked that field goal. But the Broncos, I kind of like what I'm seeing. Dude, Estime, good call by you. I think is he a must start this week against the Falcons defense? That's okay. And then who is he throwing the ball to? Obviously Sutton, but is it Franklin, Valet? What's the other ancillary guy that we could possibly play?
Yeah, so many things. I don't know where to start. One, Marty had a comment down there. Jesse, do the same thing. You said as a common thing, dump to Hall. Yeah, you nailed it, right? Relieve some of the pressure from Roger. They don't do it enough. There were games earlier in the season where they were doing that. I haven't seen them really doing that much. I don't understand why teams don't do this. It's just the easiest play. It's the quarterback drops back. Oh, there goes my running back. Dump it off. Just do something. Even if you get 3 yards, you got 3 yards. Good. We'll regroup. We'll do the next play. On to this game. Kyle Pitts. I really like Kyle Pitts in this one. You can beat the Broncos over the middle. They got Surtain on the outside. They have moved Drake London to a slot. He's done better as a slot. So if Surtain is on Mooney, and with Mooney having what was it, the Achilles or some sort of issue midweek, he was out of practice. He's back. He's good to go, but that could be an issue because unless they bring Surtain inside to cover London most of the time, which I don't really think they see him doing, Mooney could be a tough play in this one. And I know early on the season, for whatever reason, my stupid old brain all of a sudden didn't like Mooney, even though I loved him on the Bears. Made no sense. But that's how I was thinking. And I flipped and I was like, all right, yeah. I feel like this week might be a tough Mooney week. The Broncos defense is real. You got to keep rolling with Bijan. I'm not even going to talk about it. You asked a question about Algier. Yeah, because it's a tough Broncos rush defense as well. And they can't just give it all to Bijan. They haven't been. I think Algier is part of the reason that Bijan's been doing so well because he's been getting those tough yards and it softens up and it opens up. And then when it's Bijan time to just sort of do Bijan things, he does them. So Algier's fine. If they get close, listen, they tried 2 or 3 times in a row to give it to Algier, and he couldn't punch it in. And then they bring Bijan in, and it was easy. It's like he softens them up. It's like he's kneading the dough, and Bijan just makes the pizza. So, yeah, and the Estime, we'll see if that continues. You could run all over the Falcons. I think Javonte is still sort of their third down back. The Broncos are a team that do like to throw to the running backs to help move the ball. So kudos to Sean Payton. Wouldn't you know? He made a career out of that with his running backs in New Orleans. Sutton, with Terrell on the other side. I like Sutton in this one. The other guys you asked about, I mean, I really can't mess with anybody. It's Valet, but you're not playing him. You're just not. This one, the Falcons last week should have beat the Saints. I mean, Koo missing 3 field goals. He's been missing field goals every single week. This is one where, and we have something queued up here to show that I found earlier because you had mentioned the Broncos. They had that game wrapped up and with the blocked field goal. So we got something queued up just to show when we get done with the games, but it's just crazy because how are the Broncos going to respond? Because that could be super deflating. Luckily they have a young quarterback who is uber fiery. So I don't think he's going to let that. I think that if anything, it's going to pump him up more to get this one done. It's going to be tough. A dome team on the road at Mile High. I could see it go either way, but Kirk Cousins, when it's not 1 o'clock and it's not inside, is never really that good. So I do like Bijan. I do like Pitts. London, Mooney, I would stay away from. But if you don't have better options, you probably got to use them.
All right. Just want a good shout out here. I think your call and estimate a few weeks ago could lead to the same impact late season like your call several years ago on Khalil Herbert.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
I picked them up at a couple places too, man.
Let's hope so.
All right. Next one here. Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. Seahawks coming off of the bye week, healthy now. DK is back. How does that change the aspect of what now the Geno Smith opportunities go to? Now that Metcalf is back, we've seen JSN step up. We've seen Tyler Lockett, your boy Barner, getting a lot of love. Dude, his props are like 3.5 receptions nowadays,
Crazy.
which I love to see.
Yeah.
So where do we see the ball going as far as from a Seahawks standpoint? On the flip side, Kittle seems to be out. So where do those targets go now? Or do we see more Pearsall? Jennings was injured midweek, seemed to be coming off the report, though, now.
Mhm.
CMC got some love last week, but not a lot of love. Do we see an uptick there, and how does that affect this whole entire San Francisco offense?
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure Fant is still out. And I said that before week 10. I was like, I think he'll be out even after the bye. And AJ Barner will be your starting tight end for them for week 11. And here we are. And he is. And I like him. If you need a tight end fill in with DK back, that's only going to help him. But it's going to take away from the JSN thing. But I think you have to continue to play JSN. I really like the Niners today, even without Kittle. We saw Pearsall last week get his touchdown, his second game. He's going to continue to be more involved. Jennings is back and healthy now and off the injury report. CMC second game back, shook a lot of rust off. I really like him today. They will use him in the passing game as they always do, and didn't do a ton of last week, but I think that they will with no Kittle. They're going to need somebody to dump off some stuff too. So I think Mason is back just in case they need him, and they got Garendo. So it's just a ton of options. Brock Purdy is actually who I'm using today in DFS. I just think that the Seahawks on the road, Geno, he's going to give the Niners some short fields, but he'll be able to do some things on offense with DK back and his full complement of weapons. This is a game where I could see a ton of points being scored with no Kittle. I think that's going to help Debo a little bit. I was a little worried about Debo last week, punching his long snapper and his placeholder and his kicker.
Yeah, what was that all about, dude?
Moody missing the field goals after being out a few weeks. I'm not too worried about that. I'm still using him. But we don't talk about kickers, really, unless somebody asks. But in this one, I'm playing my guys, playing them all. There's not too much to say here. This is going to be classic NFC West. Bunch of points, some interceptions.
Yeah, especially so that it looks like it's going to rain. So
Yep.
Something to pay attention to as well. Opportunities from a defensive standpoint as well.
Play your guys. If you have Kittle, get them out. Maybe you put AJ Barner in if everything is dead on the waiver wire.
All right. Going on to another game of the week. I feel like there's a bunch of them this week.
Yeah,
Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. Kansas City, obviously coming off that game with the blocked field goal that we were just talking about a few minutes ago. Mahomes looked okay. Kareem Hunt seems to be the guy. Travis Kelce got the touchdown. Is that it? Or who else are we starting against this Buffalo team that their defense has been sneakily, statistically good, but from an eye test, I feel like that's not the case. But again, who else can we start from the Chiefs? As far as the Bills, Cook finally came back to life a little bit. Cooper seems like he's going to play. Where do we see the targets? You had mentioned Dawson Knox earlier because Kincaid is out. Is that a good fill-in for somebody that has either somebody on bye or could be injured as far as a tight end standpoint?
Yeah, Josh Allen is 3-1 all time in the regular season against the Chiefs. The one loss happened his rookie year. I think it was his first time playing them, if I'm not mistaken. So you take that out of the equation. He's undefeated against them, but he's never beaten them in the playoffs. So when it's the playoffs, but in all those games, Josh Allen has been amazing for fantasy purposes and statistical purposes. And he's got a full complement of weapons now, except he does not have Kincaid, but he's got Knox, who's his away game roommate, one of his best friends on the team. And he knows when they get close that he's a reliable touchdown option. That's the one reason that I'm using him over Hunter Henry. I do really feel, and I know, Rob, we always say go with your gut. I'm going against it because I'm an idiot. I do feel like Knox is going to get a touchdown. I feel like he's got a better shot to get a touchdown in this game than Hunter Henry. So I'm going with Knox because Knox has been playing even when Kincaid was playing. And now Kincaid's not playing, so it's Knox. And then they got the one other dude that actually scored a touchdown last week, but he was only on the field for a couple snaps. I don't even know his name. I don't even care about him. But that means but the Chiefs also stink against tight end. I know that the Rams do as well, but the Chiefs are worse. And I think Cooper playing with a cast on his wrist, if I heard correctly, is going to be more of a decoy. We'll see how much he can catch the ball. Yeah, Brandon just said it. No Coleman again for the second week in a row. You got to play Shakir. Shakir's been killing it. So they're going to be using, I feel like, Knox quite a bit. And that's why I really like him. If he's still sitting out there in your league and you have any sort of questions at tight end, I feel like you got to pick him up. I don't know how or why he would still be sitting there Sunday morning when the news came out sometime during the day Friday that Kincaid wasn't going to play. But yeah, Mac Hollins has been playing well, but I can't stand Mac Hollins. I don't know if it's the hair or the face or what it is about him. He just drives me nuts. But you're right. But he's been playing well, and that helps the other wide receivers. That helps the offense. So beautifully valid point. And James Cook will be tough. James Cook's going to be tough in this one going against the Chiefs, but how do you bench him unless you have better options? They're using Ray Davis. They love Ty Johnson. They love Ty Johnson. Got to get Ty Johnson 6-pack of touches for whatever reason. They love him. And so as far as the Chiefs go, Juju's back. It'd be interesting to see how do they do with the oldest wide receivers in the world with Juju. Although Juju's not old. His name is just old. I think he's 27, which how?
Oh, he's not that young, is he?
I think Juju's 27. Look it up. I think he's 27 years old. He seems like he should be 34. Look it up. I'll wait.
I am. 27 years old.
27.
Holy
it's unbelievable. Juju's 27 years old. But if you say his name, you're like, God, he's so old. How is he not retired yet? 27. It's insane. But anyways, the oldest feeling wide receiver core, let's say that. But this can be all hands on deck. These two teams play these types of games that are crazy. You think back to the one in the playoffs a couple years ago with the touchdown at the end and overtime, the 43 seconds or the 16 seconds, whatever it was that they gave Mahomes and he drove down the field. It's one where you just have to get a piece of it. And that's why I'm playing Knox over Hunter Henry. I would play Knox over a few guys this week, to be honest, and that's why I'm doing it. I want to put whoever I have in this game in, even a Worthy, because I feel like they're really going to have to need him this week. Bill's offense has been crazy, and the Chiefs' offense has not. So they're going to have to push it a little more than I think they've had to for quite some time.
The Ray Davis thing real quick. I just think that that type of running back, the type of running back that he is, will bear better against the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like their outside linebackers and their secondary actually help on the run a lot more, where a brawler up the middle could be something that I would be interested in seeing. I'm going to go probably the over on Ray Davis for DFS. He'll probably be at like 23.5 or something like that.
Yeah, not a bad call.
All right. Sunday Night Football, Cincinnati Bengals at the Los Angeles Chargers. Look, I put the R this time.
Chargers.
The Chargers. Bengals coming off of a great game. Again, it's such a tough loss. I should bring up the stat thing now, to be honest with you, instead of after the games. But from a Cincinnati standpoint, Higgins is back. How does that help Chase, who obviously had a huge game last week? Obviously, does that hurt him? I mean, and are we okay with starting a Higgins today? As far as Khalil Herbert, do we see more of him coming out? A lot of questions about starting Chase Brown against this Chargers defense. It's pretty good. Anybody else from an offensive stand? Tanner Hudson seemed to come on. It was Gesicki the week before. It's Drew Sample. Do we stay away from the tight ends? On the Chargers side, Gus Edwards got a lot of burn. This is kind of now maybe this downward spiral for Dobbins, or the Bengals are I can start both those guys with comfort because they can't stop anybody. And then I don't know. It's run and defense for the Chargers. Am I okay with starting any of my wide receivers for the Chargers?
Yeah, not only do the Bengals use 3 tight ends just to ruin my life as a lover of Mike Gesicki.
Yep.
But T. Higgins is playing this week. And when T. Higgins plays, Mike Gesicki does nothing. His games are big when T. Higgins does not play. Whatever it is, where he must be lining up or taking some of the plays away. But you play Chase, I'd stay away from the tight ends. I'm actually fine playing Higgins in this one. Chase Brown, I'm fine playing. I know the Chargers defense is really good. And being at home, I'm very excited to watch. I feel like Justin Herbert is typically pretty good in primetime games, but he doesn't get a lot of them. I feel like the last time we've seen him was early last season before he was injured. It might have even been 2 years ago. So they don't get a lot of primetime games. So this is going to be nice to see him and this team under the lights with Harbaugh and the coach, his first season. They got the young receiving core, Ladd, my favorite wide receiver rookie going into the season. Now he's got a ton of buzz and traction under him. Quentin Johnston, he either looks like a baller or somebody that makes you want to be balling because he doesn't know how to play football or run routes or catch balls. But I like him. And Joshua Palmer came on last week and looks like he's starting to get into form, and the team is just throwing more. Now, I think the Bengals offense is playing good enough that the Chargers are going to have to throw. I think the Dobbins question is fair. I would not be surprised if Vidal is once again inactive because he wasn't good. I liked him. We tried it. He had the one big play, his first time playing, and then could get under 2 yards every single time he touched the ball. So Gus Edwards coming back is going to help. I would play Gus Edwards in this one if I'm an owner. You get the Sunday night magic. If they get close, he's got to punch one in. There's the Gus bus. That's what he does. This is one where if the Bengals offense can beat the Chargers offense or defense, then we're going to see the Chargers open up like they haven't really had to do at all this year. This can be a really good game. I'm really looking forward to this tonight. I'm sitting the tight ends for the Bengals, but God, Rob, I can't even say the words. I can't say I'd be okay with diddly dizzles. I just can't. I just can't
love
do
him.
it. I know you do. So you say it.
All right, Disley's a go, guys. I would do it.
I hate him.
He's doing it. He plays well, though.
I know he does.
Dude, it's running, tight end, defense.
I
It's
know.
Harbaugh. I mean,
I
that's
know.
what it is.
I know.
Watch Disney put up a donut now.
I actually think the sneaky play in this one, and depending on how today goes with props and everything else, I think the sneaky play might be Josh Palmer in this game. I really think, because I think Ladd is going to have the defense's attention, and rightly so. And the position that he plays is tough against the Bengals, the slot. Quentin Johnston, he's had his big game, so his numbers are inflated, and they're going to have an eye on him. And I just feel like Palmer slowly, he's Herbert's favorite, but he was really banged up early in the year, and I feel like I want you to look this up. Is he older than Juju?
Was it? Sorry, one more time.
Josh Palmer. Is he older than Juju? If he's 28, I'm going to punch you through the screen.
25.
25, okay. But he seems like he's just equally as old.
Been around for for a while.
All right. So he's a sneaky play. If all goes well today, I like him. I don't know what his numbers at, but I bet it's probably like 2.5. I feel like that's doable.
I agree. It's against this Bengals team that can't stop anybody. So I would agree with that. Yep. All right, let's go on to the last game here so we can get to some questions. Houston Texans at the Dallas Cowboys. If I was to look at this from a last year standpoint without injuries and the moves that they made and stuff like that, I would be like, holy moly, this game is going to be unbelievable Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at it from a Stroud sophomore slump. No more Diggs. Collins coming back. Tank Dell underwhelming. Joe Mixon, tons of carries, no yards last week. Their defense plays okay, though. So I'm starting their defense this week in a couple places. But who are we comfortable with? Texans, Mechie, does he get more love again now that Collins is back? How does the ball move around now? And then from a Dallas standpoint, CeeDee Lamb's banged up. Can you trust playing anybody else? Obviously, they're going to have to move the ball. They didn't move it very much last week against the Eagles. Where do we go from here?
Listen, Mechie is in the Diggs role, just like he was before Halloween when I said that he was my favorite, and C.J. Stroud murdered my soul that night. He's in the Diggs role. So Collins coming back does nothing to hurt that and helps it, because coverage is going to worry about Nico. But you got to play Nico in this one. The only thing you worry about is volume, because the Texans hypothetically should be able to destroy Dallas. How much are they going to have to throw? Yada, yada, yada. Schultz finally had a kind of decent game last week. I think Collins helps him. And Tank Dell as well. He's been kind of struggling. Well, that's because he's been kind of playing as the wide receiver one. He's not a wide receiver one for an NFL team. So I think that Collins coming back is going to make a world of difference. And for CJ Stroud as well, and Joe Mixon, who's still been doing very well, but they've sort of had to rely on him a little bit more. Last week was tough, but they were going against a really tough rush defense. The Cowboys looked good for about 2.5 quarters against the Eagles, and then everything fell apart. So can they put a full game together? I think that the Texans aren't in the Eagles league, offensively or defensively, not this season. So I think that they'll be in this one enough for the Texans players that we all mentioned to all be viable. From Nico to Mechie and everybody in between. If you need a wide receiver 3 or flex, and the Mechie is the best available, because what we saw of him last week was what we should have had 2 weeks ago. One more time, hopefully the last time I'll say that. He's in the Diggs role, and as long as CJ Stroud can put it on him, he's going to give you a percentage of what Diggs was giving you. And we saw it last week, and I think that'll continue. For the Cowboys, Jay Ferguson, why not? CD's probably going to play. Jalen Tolbert. If this team, if Cooper Rush stinks, I would like them to elevate and activate Mr. Will Grier. Do we remember that preseason game where Will Grier played against the Raiders? and absolutely murdered it in the last preseason game, and then they went ahead and cut him.
What?
Now, Cooper Rush, I feel like is better than he was last week. Again, he was fine, but he's playing against a tough D. I mean, we saw what the Eagles just did to Jaden Daniels and Washington. So
Yeah.
we see how good that defense is playing. Trey Lance just doesn't look like he's ready still somehow 4 years later. I would like them to go to Will Grier and just give him a shot. So at least activate him and let's just put him in. He's been with the team before. I know they just signed him to the practice squad, but it's probably not going to happen this game. But if Cooper Rush is terrible, he might be somebody that maybe we're looking at next week. I would like to see it. But I'm fine playing the Cowboys guys, but I'm not playing the running backs because they're all suck.
They're all pretty bad. Yeah, and again, this Houston defense, they show up for most of the games. So, all right, that is the last game. Do you want me to bring up the thing?
Yeah,
here?
I just think this is interesting. Kelly Ford, shout out to you. We'll give you your props, but look at that. What if every one possession NFL game had the opposite result so far this year? Look at the first plays for the AFC. Look at the last plays for the AFC. Very interesting.
Yeah. Wow, KC.
I mean,
wow.
It's just one flip.
That's where the Jets should be. That's where the Jets should be.
Yeah, that's where they should be. They could be. They would be, but they're not.
Holy guacamole.
Right?
Tampa Bay makes sense too. So many close games.
Yeah. Oh, I feel so bad for Tampa Bay.
Even the Giants, man, that's crazy. As bad as Daniel Jones has looked for most of the year, the Giants could be a flip of the script. Wow.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, and I like that she took the time, or he, maybe it could be he, I don't know. They took the time to flip these, and it's great. Is whether it's a win or it's a loss, they flipped them, and it honestly looks a little bit more like you feel it should.
Yeah.
Be honest.
Yeah. The way KC is played, to be honest with you, their offense, I mean, their defense is playing lights out right now, but their offense is not there. Very interesting.
I like it.
All right, let's go to the live comments here. Marty, what up there, buddy? Happy week 11 to you as well. All right. Remember, guys, always like, comment, and share. We appreciate you, ABG fam. All right. Dumping to running back is a basic play. Simple spreads the defense. I agree with you. Why make it so complicated? Guess has been saying it for years.
I don't understand why. Like, listen, coming from a Madden guy, and that's what I am. The highest rate of success I've ever playing football is Madden. So take it with a grain of salt. But in Madden, if you've got to move the ball and get a couple yards and you're having trouble running it, you call a play where you can dump it off to your running back. And it's just like you've seen it work with teams, successful teams. Why do they not do it as much as they like? You'll be watching a game and it's just like you're looking and like they have no passes to the running back. It's the third quarter and they are down by X amount of points. They can't move the ball through the air or on the ground. It's like, well, have you heard of this thing? It's called a RB screen or a dump off pass. And it's just drives me nuts. I'm hoping we see a bunch of it today.
All right, Darren. I never share your stuff because I can't have the competition joining the ABG fam. Sorry, guys. Hey, story of our lives, man. Story of our lives. But you know, we appreciate that you found us and that you're always active and participating. Yes, we appreciate that. This could be a crazy games. Pats Rams. Don't forget the West to East Coast 1 p.m. game time. Yeah, that does make a big difference, man. We had mentioned this one already. 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions in the revenge game for Winston. Jets need to do the same thing as far as dumping off the hill, relieve the pressure from.
It's elementary. It's elementary.
Hey, Emmanuel, welcome. First timer, but definitely not the last. We appreciate you, bud. Make sure to subscribe or to like the Facebook group. Hoping to pick your brain for start sit. Tyreek versus the Raiders or Devontae versus the Colts. Great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. And oh my gosh. I want to say Tyreek, but I just have a feeling that Devontae is going to be pretty good today. And with the Tyreek kind of being injured type of thing, and the Raiders being worse than the Colts, I'm going to say Devontae. And then because you're a first timer, and even if you weren't, even if you were somebody like Darren or Marty or all these guys that have been with us since day one, Dawn / Tiffany, it doesn't matter who you are. I hope I'm right for every single one of them. I'm going to go Devontae. Certainly a worse quarterback, certainly a more dysfunctional team at the moment. But I'm going to go with Devontae over Tyreek.
I'm a Jets fan, so I'm want to go Devontae too. I'm not 100% sure. I think Devontae does have a good game. I think you'll be actually okay with either one of these. But the Jets fan in me makes me want to go Tyreek just because I hate the Jets right now. So take that with a grain of salt. All right. I feel Atlanta wins this game. Brandon says, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me either, man.
Yeah.
We had mentioned this earlier. I think it's good putting it up here. Anyways, I think your call on Estime a few weeks ago could lead to the same impact last season that your call several years ago on Khalil Herbert.
I hope so.
All right. Any push for Allen in this game?
I think he was
Ray Davis. Sorry, he meant Ray Davis.
Yeah.
I mentioned I like Ray Davis in this one.
Yeah, same as
he had mentioned no Coleman, Matt Collins playing well.
Yeah.
We agreed on that one. Nick with a question here: PPR, Tillman or Pollard? Pollard lost touches, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tillman. You run the risk of less volume with Tillman because they should just be able to obliterate the Saints, but on the road, you don't know if that happens. But even if they do, again, this is revenge game, top of the charts for Mr. Jameis Winston. And I would think if the coach would allow it, even if they're up big, they're going to let Winston sling it. So I'm going to go with Tillman. I think you got a higher ceiling.
And for tight end, Hunter Henry, Taysom Hill, or Ferguson?
Listen, I got a bad feeling just because I'm playing Dawson Knox over Hunter Henry, that Henry's going to have a really big game. If I took that out of the equation, I would probably say Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I would probably go Taysom Hill on this one as well. I think he's such a gadget. You can get receptions. He's going to get rushes. He can throw the ball here and there. I rather have that element.
Yeah, higher ceiling.
Yeah, definitely a higher ceiling.
And then you got two guys in the same game. So if it becomes back and forth, sort of high scoring, or if you lose the volume with Tillman because they are killing them, then at least you have Taysom Hill trying to help catch up some of those things. So I kind of like that. I don't see that one being a defensive struggle by any means. So I'm going to go Tillman and Hill.
All right, just to give you a heads up, sounds like you're a little bit muffled here.
Hello.
Oh, Jesus. Well, good morning. All right, let's go to questions from the Facebook group.
Cole Muffler. Was that a store? That was a store.
All right. Darren with the question. What's CD's value rest of season?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you sound great.
Less than it was. I mean, like.
All right. Am I going on to the next one?
He's not somebody you're dropping, and he's probably somebody that you're going to have to continue to start. Worst comes to worst, I highly doubt you have a third wide receiver, which hypothetically would be your fourth, that is better than him, even at his lowest. Now, last week was whatever, and he is injured heading into the game, so you got to keep an eye on that. But I think he'll be just fine. Last week, I think a lot of people, and even for a moment in time, me in particular, over not estimated, but overreacted to. The Eagles defense, and we mentioned this a few weeks ago, they're just getting better and better each week. We saw what they did to the Commanders, and that's what they did last week. It was Cooper Rush's first game, and he was playing against the team that's probably playing the best defense in the league. So I think he'll be just fine. Let's hope for his health. I'm not trading him, and most trade deadlines are over. At this point, you just ride it out because he'll be all right.
All right, next one here. Josue with the question. After Devontae Smith stinker, who would you flex, Tank Dell or JSN? Hey, just real quick, I know I had mentioned to play Devontae Smith. He did have two end zone targets. One was a underthrown ball, and I think he may have gotten a hand on the other one, if I'm not mistaken. But
that whole game was a stinker.
Such a weird,
I know that, I've been talking the Eagles defense, but listen, that game was a stinker. It was every single pass was to the running back for the Commanders or a couple to the tight end. See, the Commanders do it, throwing to Eckler. I mean, goodness gracious. His line was, by the way, I had it. I didn't have his receptions, but they were 2.5. But his yardage was, I think, 27.5. And he had 80 something?
Yeah, something like that.
With eight receptions. I'm going JSN here. I just think that game's going to be more of a back and forth. I know that I know DK's back, but I'm going JSN.
All right. Yeah, both those guys actually have their wide receiver one coming back. So interesting. Mm-hmm. All right. Jason with one here. Denver defense against Atlanta. Saints defense against Cleveland. Rams are also an option as well.
I'm going to go with Denver. I know that Jameis Winston will throw the picks, but I'm going to go with Denver because it's Kirk Cousins on the road at Mile High, and it's not a 1 p.m. game. And that's when he's at his worst. When it's not 1 o'clock and it's not indoors.
All right. Next one here. Justin with a question. Andrews or Freiermuth?
I want to say Andrews, but I think it's Freiermuth. So, what do you say, Rob? I think I'm going to go Andrews. That was my instinct.
Yeah, I think Andrews has the more potential of being an outlet for Lamar, where the defense for the Ravens isn't as good as the Steelers. So, I don't know. Yeah, I would probably go Andrews too. Andrews would probably be my call. All right, Leon with the question for the show: Walker or Chase Brown this week? Thanks for putting the hashtag there, bud. APG.
I don't see how you could sit Walker. They're going to get Herbert more involved. Chase Brown's matchup is not easy. You do get the Sunday Night Magic, but I'm going to go Walker. I'm not sitting Walker. I'm just not.
Yeah, San Francisco's defense actually hasn't been the greatest against the run, so
yeah.
I would agree with Walker on that one. Antonio with a question: Downs, Bateman, or Tillman PPR?
Yeah, we want it to be Downs. Bateman is a second option at best, if not third. And I do think Deontay scores a touchdown today. I'm going to go with Tillman again. For me, it's just the better option.
Volumes there. You got Pittman coming back for Downs too, so that takes away some of the target share. Tillman's number one over there. I would agree with Tillman as well. All right, Scott with a question here. Someone drop Allen. That's from the Jets. Yeah, he doesn't do anything at value, but he has Hall as he's a Hall owner. Do I drop anyone on my bench to pick up insurance or leave him on waiver and hope that they're something after the bye weeks, or if he's there after the bye weeks?
I'm looking at what you have.
I can't think of his name. Braylon Allen. There it is.
And it's nobody that I really want to drop yet. And I know because I saw this question come in and somebody was like, drop Mike Williams, and you're like, well, I need wide receivers week 12. So I know that going in that you pretty much need these guys. So my advice is the Jets are on bye next week, and you can pick him up next week all the way up until the Monday night game kicks off. Now, the worst case scenario for you is, hopefully it does not happen, but if Breece Hall were to go down, then people would want to pick up Braylon Allen next week. However, Braylon Allen being on a bye next week, unless it's a ridiculously severe injury where the whole world is like, oh my God, I can't believe Breece Hall's done for the season. Nobody's going to be going after Braylon Allen next week. Nobody, because he's on bye. And there's 6 teams on bye, and people are not going to be looking up to pick up people that are on bye. I say you just wait, see how these guys do. Maybe one of these guys goes down, unfortunately, today. And before week 12 Monday night game, you pick up Braylon Allen and you drop somebody who you don't need after this week, all of next week, and the week 12 games. That's how I would play it. Since you need these guys, just wait. He's on bye next week, which means you can pick him up until the Monday night game kicks off.
Very true. Very true. And 6 teams on bye next week. Now I realize why week 13 doesn't have byes. It's Thanksgiving week, so they want to play as many games, especially now that they have the Friday game as well. Just wanted to point that out. We were talking about that earlier. All right. Scott Thomas with another one here. Down 34. Any lineup changes? Terrible choices, but I'm trying to compete anyway. So the bottom underneath the picture is his starting. The ones that are in gray are on his bench.
Yeah, I think you got to leave it. I mean, I don't love Mostert, but it is what it is. I would be using Mostert over Herbert for sure.
I agree. Jameson Williams is a close one for me with the Doomsday, but you don't want to start 2 guys from.
That's Javonte.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Javonte Williams. Okay. Oh, my bad. All right. Yeah. With estimate coming on, I agree. You got to leave it the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, even Javonte is going to catch passes. They still like him as the third down guy, a little over McLaughlin, but over Mostert, I think it would just leave Mostert in. I'm not even a big Mostert guy, so I'd leave it.
Jeremy with the question: pick 2 running backs, a tight end, and a flex. So 4 players all together. Yeah, pretty much. He'll blame you for if it's wrong. So Walker, Taylor, Chubb, Hawk, Kittle, and Henry. Kittle's out, so he's eliminated from the question.
Yeah. I will play all 3 running backs, and then I'll play. Listen, I just have a feeling about Henry, but I'm sitting him, so I'm going Hawk. I'll play all 3 running backs and Hawkinson.
Yep. I would agree with that. All right. Remember, guys, the merch is out there. $25 for a t-shirt, $45 for a hoodie. Good quality.
Yeah, we've only got a few.
The other day.
Yeah, we've only got a few left. We got like 4 or 5 left. I'll drop it down to 20. And 40. You want them 20 shipped or 40 shipped? We got colors available. We got XL. I think there's large. I think there's double XL. There's like 4 left. So black, gray. You let me know what you want. We'll get it to you. 20 shipped for a tee, 40 shipped for a hoodie. Just mention the week 11 show, and we'll get it for you if you want it. Just send us a PM. And we'll get it out because I want to clear these out, and then maybe we'll get some more. We'll see.
All right. I like that. All right. Let's go back to the questions that came in from our comments here. Michael with a question here. Estime worth a flex start or Keenan Allen? I don't like anything Bears related. Caleb has not been looking good.
I'm playing Estime as my RB2 in 2 leagues this week. So, yeah, he's worth a flex start.
I agree. Yeah, Keenan Allen, I'm staying away from. I have to see what the offense is going to look like with the new offensive coordinator. And then Josue with the question: Knox or Ferguson?
I'm going Knox over Hunter Henry, who I think Hunter Henry, again, is going to have a good day today. So I'm playing Knox over Ferguson. I mean, it just sets up too perfectly for Knox, which usually is a bad thing, but he's got Josh Allen. It's his roommate when they play road games. He likes him in the red zone even when Kincaid's playing. Kansas City sucks against tight ends. It's going to be a high-scoring game. It just lines up.
Yeah, and Cooper Rush is the other quarterback, so.
Yep.
All right. Remember, guys, always like, comment, and share. We appreciate you, ABG fam. Guess. Anything else there, sir?
Yeah, if you're 3-8 after today, you're probably done.
Okay.
But or after this week, if you're 4-7, you're still alive. You can get to 7-7. You got a shot to get into the playoffs, but 6-8. I mean, every league's different, but more than likely 6-8 at best is probably not going to do it. So if you're sitting there at 3-7, like I am in one league, because as I said before the show, I continue to lose these games by 2 points or less. And every time that happens, there's a guy with 0 or 2 guys with 0 sitting on my bench, like Parker Washington, jerk last week. So if you're 3-7, you need a win. Or that's it, or we just play spoiler the rest of the year, which I'm fine with. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Spencer, the question here: Spears or Estime? He's desperate.
I'm going to go with Estime, and hopefully he can catch some passes today as well. Spears looked pretty good last week, and Pollard was a little banged up. But I'm going to go with Estime. Let's do it. They're at home playing against an inferior opponent. Spears has a tough rush defense to go against Minnesota, so I'm going with Estime.
All right. Another one just came in here. Denzel, hey, what's up there, bud? Make sure to subscribe. Jennings, London, Garrett Wilson, Quentin Johnson, and Chubb. 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Who you going with?
I'm going to flex Chubb. And if I could, because it's a 1 o'clock game, I'll put him in at running back and move my latest running back to the flex just in case. If they all start at 1, it doesn't really matter. 2 wide receivers. Gosh. I'm going to go with Wilson and London just because they have moved London to the flex, to the heck. I can't say
slot.
That. To the slot. And he should not have to deal with Surtain. I do like Jennings this week, but I'm going to go with London and Wilson, and I'm going to put Chubb again at running back and move my latest starting running back to the flex.
All right. Darren with another one here. Dell or Waddle? Last minute question.
I mean, I'm going to go with Waddle. We saw him be the leading player on the team last week, and they're going against Vegas with Hill a little banged up. So I'm going to go with Waddle. I like Dell, but again, they're playing in a game that on paper should be them able to blow out. I think it's going to be a little closer, but worst case scenario, they're not going to need Dell too much. Collins coming back does help Dell, but you got Mechie coming on, you got Schultz coming on, and I just think that Waddle has a higher ceiling in this matchup. I'm going to go with Waddle.
All right, Josue. Opponents' players keep going off against me. So annoying. Yeah. It's the same thing for me, man. Especially in the ABG league. I think everybody just wants to put their best weeks up against me. Won the championship 2 years in a row, and they're like, screw you, Rob. I am currently 1-9. Yeah, exactly. Manuel, 3-7 spoilers unite. That's what had me chuckling. That's a good one, man. I like it.
3-7 still alive, though. That's the thing. You just got to win this week. You got to stack them together. If you can get, and if we can get, because in one league I am 3-7, I keep losing by under 2 points. If if you can get to 7-7, there's a good chance you can get that 6th seed, depending if all the other cards fall correctly. But once you fall under 500, unless you got 2 teams at the top really dominating and everybody else is floating around 500, you're probably done at 3-8. So let's get a win this week. 2-8 right now. You just have nothing to do but ruin everybody else's life today, and that's fine with me.
Oh, yeah. Make one happy. Always
Yeah.
look for those hashtags, guys. Answers by Guess and ABGFF. We are the Inside Scoop from outside the box. Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on YouTube. Find us on TikTok, X, Patreon, and Spotify. Remember,
Get
guys,
your merch.
bye weeks. Get the merch. $20 for T-shirts, $40 for hoodies. We're going to go with the ABG Family Special. That's what we're going to call it. Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, Tampa Bay Bucks. If they are in your lineups, get them the heck out. Guess, best of luck, friend.
Good luck, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
See you next
All right,
week.
guys. Peace. Oh, it's not ending. It's not gonna end. It's ending. Come on.